Welcome to my channel. Okay, let me ask you something. Honestly, and I really want you to think about this for a second. Have you ever noticed how some people improve their English so fast? I mean, one day they are quiet, shy, and unsure. And then suddenly, wow, they are speaking with confidence. Meanwhile, you might be studying English for months, maybe even years, and still feel stuck. You understand a little, you know some words, but when it's time to speak, you freeze. Why does this happen? Is it talent? Is it age? Is it because they are smarter than you? Actually, no, not at all. And this is the strange part. Most people never tell you this. What if I told you that improving English fast is not about studying harder, reading thicker books, or memorizing long grammar rules? It's about doing the right things in the right order. That's it. Nothing complicated. No magic. Just the correct order. You see, many learners work very hard, but they work in the wrong direction. And honestly, that's not their fault. Nobody explains this clearly. So stay with me. Don't skip. Don't rush. In this video, I'm going to show you the fastest way to improve English, step by step, in very simple words, in a calm and practical way that actually works for real people like you and me. Chapter 1. Why most English learners fail. Let's start with something very real, something almost every English learner feels but rarely says out loud. You open your English book, you look at the page, and after a few minutes, you feel tired. Not physically tired, but mentally tired. Your eyes move over the words, your brain tries to understand, and deep inside you think, I understand a little, but why can't I speak? That feeling is heavy, it's confusing, it's frustrating, and honestly, it hurts your confidence. Many beginners feel afraid when they hear English, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of sounding silly, afraid that people will laugh. You might know some grammar rules. You might know some words, but when someone speaks to you in English, your mind goes blank. Nothing comes out. And then you start thinking, maybe English is not for me. Maybe I'm too slow. Maybe I started too late. If this sounds like you, let me tell you something very important. This is not your fault. Not at all. For many years, schools have taught English in the wrong way. They teach English like a subject, like math or history. They focus too much on grammar rules, long explanations, and translation. You learn present tense, past tense, future tense. You memorize rules. You memorize word lists. You translate sentences again and again. But when it's time to speak, surprisingly, nothing happens. Why? Because English is not a subject. English is a skill. Think about it. How did you learn to walk? Did someone give you a book about walking? Did they explain rules like first lift your left foot, then your right foot? Number. You watched, you tried, you fell, and you tried again. Slowly, naturally, you learned. The same thing happened when you learned your first language. You listened first, a lot. You didn't translate. You didn't study grammar. You just absorbed it. But with English, many learners do the opposite. They start with grammar. They start with translation. And this creates a big problem. Your brain becomes slow. Every time you want to speak, your mind says, wait, first think in my language, then translate into English, then check grammar, then speak. By the time you're ready, oops, the moment is gone. Let's be honest for a second. How many times have you learned a new word, felt happy, and then forgotten it the next day? You write it down, you repeat it, you memorize it, and still, it disappears. That's not because you are bad at learning. It's because memorization without use doesn't stay. Imagine opening your English book after a long day. You're already kinda tired. You read one page, then another. You feel sleepy. You close the book and think, I'll do it tomorrow. And tomorrow comes, and the same thing happens. Slowly, motivation goes down, confidence goes down, and English starts to feel heavy instead of exciting. Here comes a very important moment. Listen carefully. The first secret to improving English fast is this: stop translating in your head. Yes, I know. This sounds scary. You might think, but how can I understand English without translation? That's normal. Everyone feels that way at first. But translation is like a crutch. It helps you in the beginning, but if you depend on it forever, you never walk freely. When you stop translating, something amazing starts to happen. Your brain begins to connect English words directly with meaning, pictures, and feelings, not with your native language. At first, it feels strange, confusing, maybe even uncomfortable. But that discomfort means your brain is learning in a new, faster way. This is why some people improve so fast. They don't think about grammar when they speak. They don't translate every word. They focus on meaning, on message, on communication. And here's the good news. This skill is not special. It's not for smart people only. Anyone can learn it. You just need to change how you approach English. Before speaking fast, before sounding fluent, before using big words, there is one thing you must change first: how you think about English. Not your book, not your teacher, not your age, your mindset. If you want to improve English fast, the first thing you must change is not your book, it's your mindset. Chapter 2: How your brain really learns English fast. Okay, so now that we've talked about why most learners fail, let's talk about your brain. Yes, your brain, the amazing, strange, sometimes confusing organ that somehow manages to learn everything you do. You see, your brain doesn't work like a book. Honestly, this is super important to understand because so many learners think, if I memorize enough grammar, I will speak perfectly. But here's the truth. Your brain doesn't learn English through memorizing rules. Not really. It learns through patterns, repetition, and listening. That's it. Sounds simple, right? Well, it really is, but most people overcomplicate it. Think about how babies learn. Babies don't read grammar books. They don't memorize long lists of words. They just listen. They hear sounds over and over again. They notice patterns, and slowly, magically, they start repeating words. First, it's mama, then dada, then a tiny sentence, and before you know it, a full story comes out of their little mouth. Now guess what? Your brain can do the same thing, even as an adult. The only difference is that as adults, we often try to force our brains into the wrong way. We try to memorize words, translate everything in our heads, and think too much. But your brain doesn't need that. In fact, that thinking slows you down. You see, learning English is like learning to dance or swim. You don't start by reading a book about swimming. You jump into the water and feel how your body moves. You make mistakes, splash around, maybe even panic a little, and slowly, your body learns. The same is true with English. Mistakes are not bad. Honestly, mistakes are proof that learning is happening. If you are scared to make mistakes, your brain never gets a chance to practice. And practice is the real key. Here's something I want you to remember. Listening comes before speaking. Always. You might feel frustrated because you want to speak and you are thinking, but I want to talk now. I understand. But guess what? Speaking will come naturally, just like it did for the baby, if your brain has enough listening patterns to copy. Listening builds the foundation. Listening shows your brain the rhythm, the sound, the way sentences are formed. You start to feel what is normal English. And then, when you speak, your brain already knows what to say. It just needs your mouth to catch up. Okay, so how do you make this work? The answer is daily exposure, but not hours of boring study. Not one huge grammar book a week. Just short, simple, repeatable English every day. Listen to something small, like a 5-minute story or conversation. Listen again. Pause. Repeat. Slowly, your brain starts noticing patterns. Oh, this word comes after that word. Oh, people say this way. Every tiny repetition is building your brain's English muscle. And guess what? You don't need a lot of time. Even 10 minutes a day, done consistently, is better than 1 hour a week. Here's a small trick that works wonders. Listen to English while doing something easy, like walking, washing dishes, or having coffee. Your brain is still active, still absorbing, and because you are relaxed, it remembers better. And don't worry if you don't understand everything. You don't need to. Your brain will pick up words and patterns without you even realizing it. It's like magic, but it's actually science. Now, I want to remind you again, mistakes are proof of learning. If you are listening every day, your brain is collecting patterns. If you try to speak and make a mistake, your brain is actually correcting itself without you even noticing. That is how fast improvement happens. It's not about perfection. It's about exposure and repetition. By the end of this process, you will feel English starting to click. Words will feel familiar. Sentences will start making sense automatically. You will start thinking in English instead of translating in your head. And honestly, that moment is amazing. You feel more confident, more alive, more connected to the world. So now you know how the brain learns, through listening, repetition, and patterns, not grammar rules or memorization. You also know that mistakes are good, and that speaking comes naturally after enough listening. But here's the next question. What should you actually listen to every day? Because not all listening is useful. Some listening is just noise. And that's exactly what we will talk about in the next chapter. So now you know how the brain learns, but what should you actually listen to every day? Chapter 3. The fastest input method. Listening that actually works. All right. So now that we understand how your brain learns, let's talk about the fastest way to actually give your brain the input it needs. Listening. Honestly, this is the game changer for anyone who wants to improve English fast. You see, most learners spend too much time trying to speak before they have listened enough. They jump into conversations, read a book, or memorize vocabulary lists, but their brain doesn't have a clear map yet. It's like trying to drive a car without knowing where the roads are. Listening is that map. Listening shows your brain the road, the rhythm, the sounds, and the patterns. Without it, speaking will always feel difficult, slow, or awkward. Now, here's the first secret about listening. You need easy input. Easy input means listening to English that is simple, slow, and familiar. Not complicated news, not movies with fast conversations and slang, not podcasts full of unfamiliar words. I know. You might think, but movies are fun. I want to understand them. And that's okay. We all want fun. But at the beginning, your brain gets tired and confused with too much information. Instead, start with short sentences, slow speech, and topics you already know. For example, a short story about daily life, a conversation about food, or even a simple description of someone's day. Your brain will start noticing patterns, words, and pronunciation without feeling overwhelmed. And here comes another important point. Repetition without boredom. Yes, repetition is the secret. Listen again and again. I know it might feel boring at first, but here's the trick. Don't just listen mindlessly. Listen with understanding. Try to notice one new word, one sound, or one sentence structure each time. The first time, just hear the words. The second time, try to catch the meaning. The third time, maybe repeat it softly with your voice. By the fourth time, your brain will have absorbed much more than you realize. It's amazing how much we can learn this way. Honestly, the brain loves repetition. It builds confidence, vocabulary, and pronunciation all at once. Speaking of pronunciation, listening every day actually improves it naturally. When your brain hears the correct sounds over and over, your mouth starts to copy without you thinking about it. You will start saying words correctly without worrying about rules or stress marks. That's the beauty of easy input. Your vocabulary grows too, because you remember words in context. You don't need to memorize lists. You learn words as part of real sentences, and this makes speaking much easier later. Now, let's make it practical. How can you listen every day without it being hard or boring? Small routines are the key. Listen while walking in the park, while cooking, or even before sleeping. 10 or 15 minutes a day is enough if you do it consistently. Maybe in the morning, you listen to a short story or conversation. In the afternoon, repeat it while relaxing. At night, you can listen again while resting. Your brain doesn't get tired with this small, repeated input. It actually enjoys it. And guess what? Over time, English starts sounding familiar, like a friend you recognize. And here's something very important. It's okay if you feel confused at first. Honestly, this is completely normal. When you start listening, you might hear words and feel, I don't understand anything. That's okay. Your brain is picking up patterns even if your conscious mind doesn't realize it yet. Over time, the confusion disappears. Your brain slowly organizes the sounds, sentences, and meanings. You might even notice that some words suddenly make sense, almost magically. That is how learning actually works. Another thing to remember, speaking comes naturally after enough listening. Don't rush it. Don't pressure yourself to speak perfectly at first. Your brain needs to have enough input before your mouth can catch up. The more you listen, the more confident you become. Then when you start speaking, words flow more easily, sentences feel natural, and your voice becomes more comfortable. You see, listening is not just passive, it's active training for speaking. So, let's summarize. Easy input, repetition without boredom, short daily routines, and patience. Listen, understand, repeat, and enjoy the process. Over time, pronunciation, vocabulary, and confidence improve together. Small steps every day lead to big results. Your brain is working quietly in the background, preparing you to speak naturally. Once English starts sounding familiar in your ears, something amazing happens. You start wanting to speak. Suddenly, speaking feels fun, exciting, and even a little addictive. And that, my friend, is when the real progress begins. Chapter 4. How to start speaking without fear or shame. Okay, so now we've listened enough, and your brain is starting to recognize English words and patterns. That's amazing, right? But here comes the next step, the one that scares almost everyone, speaking. Honestly, I know how it feels. You've probably thought, I can understand some English, but when I try to speak, I freeze. I feel embarrassed. I make mistakes. Maybe I'm just not good at speaking. I get it. You are not alone. Almost every beginner feels this way. And guess what? It's okay. Really. Here's something important. Speaking does not start with conversations. That's right. You don't need a friend, a teacher, or a perfect environment to start speaking. Speaking starts with talking to yourself. Yep, talking to yourself. Sounds strange? Maybe, but it works. Imagine describing your room out loud. You could say, my room is small, there is a table. On the table there is a book. I like this book. It is interesting. Simple, right? And you are already practicing English in a safe, comfortable space. No one is judging you. No one is listening. You are free to make mistakes, and your brain is learning every single word. Another technique is called shadowing. Shadowing means listening and repeating at the same time. For example, if you hear a sentence like, I like to drink coffee in the morning, you repeat it softly after the speaker, or even at the same time. It doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to stress about pronunciation or grammar at first. Just follow the sounds, follow the rhythm, and your mouth and brain will start moving together. Honestly, this is one of the fastest ways to improve speaking because it combines listening and speaking naturally. Daily self-talk is another simple but powerful technique. You can talk about your day, your feelings, or even small things around you. For example, today is sunny. I am happy. I am drinking water. I like water. I am learning English. Don't worry if it sounds silly. The goal is not to impress anyone. The goal is to train your brain and mouth to work in English. Over time, these simple sentences grow longer, your vocabulary grows naturally, and your confidence increases. Now, let's talk about fear and embarrassment. I know these feelings are real. Maybe you tried to speak before and someone corrected you, or maybe you felt shy, or maybe you just froze. That's normal. Honestly, everyone has felt it. But here's the thing, mistakes are part of learning. They are proof that you are improving. Every mistake teaches your brain something new. Every sentence you say, even if it's not perfect, is training your brain and your mouth to speak English comfortably. Fluency is not about speed. It's not about speaking like a native in the first month. Fluency is about comfort. It's about being able to say what you want, without fear, without stress, and without stopping yourself. You might start slowly. That's okay. You might repeat the same sentence 10 times. That's okay too. Each repetition makes your brain stronger. Each attempt makes you braver. And each sentence moves you closer to real speaking. Remember, pauses are natural. It's okay to pause, think, and then speak. In fact, pausing helps your brain organize words and sentences, and gentle encouragement works wonders. Tell yourself, it's okay, really, I am learning. Celebrate small victories, like saying a sentence without translating it or using a new word correctly. These little moments are the top spikes in your journey. They make learning exciting and keep you motivated. By practicing self-talk, shadowing, and simple daily conversations with yourself, you create a safe environment for speaking. You remove fear, embarrassment, and past failures. You train your brain and mouth to work together. And here's something amazing. When you connect speaking with listening, the techniques we learned in the last chapter, vocabulary grows naturally. You don't need to memorize long lists. Words come to you in context. Sentences feel familiar. Speaking starts to feel fun instead of scary. So, by now, you see the pattern. Listen first. Repeat. Talk to yourself. Make mistakes. Repeat again. Enjoy the process. Your brain and mouth are learning together, step by step. Slowly but surely, you will speak with confidence. And the best part? Once listening and speaking work together, vocabulary stops being a problem. Words start appearing naturally in your speech because your brain has already heard them in context. And that's exactly what we will talk about in the next chapter. How to grow your vocabulary without memorizing, just by connecting, listening, and speaking naturally. When you listen and speak together, vocabulary stops being a problem. Chapter 5. How to build vocabulary without memorizing. Okay, so now that you are listening and speaking more comfortably, the next question is, what about vocabulary? How do you learn enough words to actually communicate without spending hours memorizing lists? Honestly, this is where many learners get frustrated. They think, I need to know thousands of words, or I can't speak. And yes, vocabulary is important. But here's the good news. You don't need thousands of words to speak well. You just need the right words, the words you use, and repeated exposure. That's it. The first secret is guessing meaning from context. You don't need to check the dictionary for every word you hear or see. Instead, try to understand words from the situation or the surrounding words. For example, imagine you hear someone say, "I'm exhausted after work." If you don't know exhausted, think about the situation. Someone just finished work. They are probably very tired. So you can guess that exhausted means really, really tired. Simple, right? Your brain remembers meaning much faster when you connect it to a real situation. Another method is using surrounding words. Let's say you read, "The movie was hilarious. Everyone laughed a lot." If you don't know hilarious, notice the word laughed and everyone. You can guess that hilarious means very funny. Again, no dictionary needed. Your brain learns words faster when it sees or hears them in context. And the more times you encounter the word in different sentences, the stronger it sticks. Now here's something amazing. Memorization is slow, but usage is fast. You might spend hours trying to memorize 50 new words, but after a week, half of them are gone. That's normal. Don't feel bad about it. It happens to everyone. The trick is to use words naturally in speaking or writing. Even a simple sentence like, "I am exhausted today," or "That movie was hilarious," helps your brain remember the word permanently. Each time you use it, the memory strengthens. Repetition through usage is the key. Let's talk about daily life examples. Words you hear while listening, words you repeat while talking to yourself, words you notice while reading. They all become your vocabulary naturally. For example, you might hear "delicious" many times while listening to stories about food. Then, when you describe your lunch, you say, "This cake is delicious." Boom. That word is now part of your active vocabulary. No lists, no memorizing, just natural learning. And guess what? Forgetting is completely normal. Honestly, your brain sometimes seems tricky. You might learn a word today, forget it tomorrow, and then suddenly remember it later in a conversation. That's actually good. It means your brain is organizing information and reinforcing connections. Words come back stronger after a few repetitions, especially if you use them in real situations. So don't panic when you forget. Keep listening, keep speaking, and words will stick. Here's another spike. You really don't need to know every word in English to speak confidently. Most daily conversations use only a few hundred words. The secret is frequency and usefulness. Focus on words you hear and use often. Learn them naturally through listening and speaking. Your vocabulary will grow faster than any memorization method ever could. This is empowering, right? You feel in control, not overwhelmed by endless lists or complex dictionaries. Now, I know some of you might feel stressed when you see long word lists or complicated lessons online. I get it. It can feel impossible. But here's the emotional truth. Your brain is already learning in a smarter way. Listening, repeating, self-talking, and using words in context is far more effective than memorizing dozens of words a day. Slow, natural growth is better than fast, forced memorization. Trust the process. Celebrate each word you actually use, not just the words you see on a list. Finally, let's prepare for the last chapter. By now, you know the steps. Listen, repeat, talk, and learn words naturally. But here's the big question. How do you make all of this consistent? How do you ensure that listening, speaking, and vocabulary building happen every day without losing motivation or forgetting? Consistency is the real secret, and that is exactly what we will cover in the next chapter. So remember, guess words from context, use words naturally, repeat, and don't worry about forgetting. You don't need thousands of words, just the right words. Your brain is learning faster than you think. And with consistency, your English will continue to improve step by step every day. Now you know what to do, but the final question is how to stay consistent. Chapter 6. The simple daily system that makes English stick. Okay, my friend, we've reached the final step. Everything we've talked about so far, listening, speaking, building vocabulary, now comes together. And the best part? You don't need complicated schedules, long hours, or expensive courses. What you need is a simple daily system. Something you can do every day, step by step, without pressure. Honestly, this is the part that makes English improvement inevitable if you stick with it. Let's start with the routine. Keep it small, short, and consistent. For example, you might begin your day by listening to a short English story, maybe 5 or 10 minutes. Don't worry about understanding everything. Just notice the sounds, the rhythm, the words. Then, take a few minutes to repeat, shadowing or softly talking to yourself. Describe your day, your room, or your feelings in simple sentences. This is your speaking practice. Then, during the day, listen again while walking, cooking, or relaxing. And finally, before sleeping, play a short audio again. The repetition helps your brain organize everything naturally, without stress. The key here is short time, every day. 10 or 15 minutes might sound small, but done consistently, it's more powerful than 1 hour once a week. Your brain loves repeated exposure. Think of it like planting seeds. You water them a little every day, and slowly the roots grow deep. You don't try to grow a tree in one day. It takes patience. English is exactly the same. Small, daily actions build real, lasting fluency. Now let's talk about patience and trust. Honestly, learning English is not about rushing. It's about trusting your brain, trusting your process, and enjoying the journey. You might not notice big changes every day, and that's okay. Small improvements add up. Maybe today you understand one new word. Tomorrow you use it in a sentence. The next week you speak a short conversation with confidence. Little by little, step by step, progress becomes visible. And when you look back after a few months, wow, you'll be amazed at how far you've come. Emotional encouragement is very important here. I want you to picture yourself speaking English confidently one day. Imagine ordering food in a restaurant, talking with friends, or even giving a short presentation, all in English. How does that feel? Exciting? Freeing? You can reach that point. Really, you can. Every short listening session, every self-talk moment, every repeated sentence is a step toward that future. Celebrate it, feel proud, believe in yourself. Another tip: relax and enjoy the process. Don't stress about mistakes. Don't stress about forgetting. Mistakes mean learning. Forgetting means your brain is organizing knowledge. Enjoy the little victories: pronouncing a word correctly, understanding a sentence, or speaking without translating. These moments are the top spikes, the exciting moments that keep you motivated. Notice them, feel them, and let them energize your learning. Let's summarize the system one more time. Listen every day, repeat and shadow, talk to yourself, use words naturally, and relax. Small sessions, repeated consistently, lead to unstoppable improvement. Your brain is learning quietly in the background, even when you feel tired or distracted. Consistency beats intensity. Comfort beats perfection. Enjoyment beats pressure. Here's the final spike, the thing I really want you to remember. Improvement is inevitable if you follow this system. Honestly, if you keep listening, speaking, and using words every day, your English will grow. You might not notice it minute by minute, but over weeks and months, your confidence, vocabulary, pronunciation, and fluency will skyrocket. It's not magic. It's the brain working exactly as it should. So now, take a deep breath and imagine your English future. You speaking comfortably, you understanding naturally, you thinking in English without translating. That future is real, and it is waiting for you. Start with small steps today. 5, 10, 15 minutes of listening and speaking. Trust yourself, trust the process, and watch your English grow. Remember, English is a skill, not a subject. Skills are learned by doing every day. Small, consistent practice is your secret weapon. Believe in it, enjoy it, and keep going. If this video helped you, even just a little, please give it a like. It really supports the channel and helps me create more helpful content for learners like you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because here we learn English step by step, slowly, simply, and naturally. Every video is designed to help you improve without stress, without pressure, and without feeling overwhelmed. I also want you to comment below. Tell me where you are learning English from, what part of this video was most helpful, or which step felt hardest for you. Your comments inspire me and help other learners too. Remember, you don't need to be perfect. English is a journey, not a race. The most important thing is to keep going every day in small steps. Even 10 minutes a day adds up to big progress over time. You are capable, you are learning, and your English will improve if you stay consistent. So take one small action today, listen, repeat, speak, and keep moving forward. You've got this.